Hello there, welcome back to my channel. Hopefully the fact that you clicked on this video means you're not sick of these vlogs yet. It is almost April, and I thought we could spend the day together, get ready for the next month. I have some updates to share about getting certified to teach in Texas. I'm gonna go over my latest books that I've read. We're gonna pick out some new books. We're gonna chat about goals for the next quarter of 2024. I've got some favorites to share, so grab, I don't know, a coffee, favorite beverage of choice, and let's hang out for a bit. First things first, I gotta make coffee.
The boss needs his coffee!
So we're gonna kick this off with some coffee-related favorites, and if you have been a longtime follower of mine, it's gonna be a little nostalgia for you, okay? Because Dunkin' is making a comeback, at least in a small way. Story time. When I was flying home from Michigan, I had a layover in Chicago. I really wanted coffee, and the closest option to my gate was a Dunkin'. If you remember, very early on in my vlogs, Dunkin' was my go-to. It's what I drank in college because it was very affordable. And honestly, at the time, I just wanted a coffee flavored drink. I didn't care that much about the actual coffee, but as I've gotten older, I have really grown to value coffee, but especially dark roast coffee. And as a result, I strayed away from Dunkin' because it just wasn't scratching the itch the right way. You know what I mean? But when I saw at Dunkin' an advertisement for their midnight roast, which is a super dark roast coffee, I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and get a cup of that. Just like black coffee, sounds great. Y'all, I took a sip and I was like, excuse me, is this Dunkin' Donuts? Because I don't know her, at least like this. I was thoroughly impressed. So I went online and actually found like the ground version of the Dunkin' Midnight. Here's my complaint though. Now you can get this on Amazon. This is what, 11 ounces. It was like $7, $8. That's very expensive to me, mostly because I get a drum, okay? I'm not kidding. I get a 3-pound drum from Costco for the cost of like 2 of these. However, I wanted to give it a try. This is now Billy and I's like weekend coffee. So it's like we're gonna treat ourselves with some more expensive coffee. I feel weird calling Dunkin' expensive, but just in comparison to Costco, it's very good. So if you are interested and you really like dark roast coffee, it kind of has those notes of like chocolate. Oh, it's so good. You can get this on Amazon. I will link it for you down below. So that's my first favorite. My second favorite, I have ventured into the world of French press coffee. I used to have a French press, but I convinced myself that it was just too much work and I never used it. However, with dark roast coffee, I knew that French press is a great method for it. And because Monday through Friday, I'm only making coffee for myself and I only drink 1 cup in the morning. I know, it's a big cup, all right? It's really probably closer to like 2 normal cups, but as a result, French press, it works really well if you're just making like a single cup of coffee. We do have our Ninja coffee maker, which I love, but I also find it much easier just to like clean this out as opposed to cleaning out the filter and all of the things. Now, if you are not team French press, first of all, if you're team dark roast, you should be team French press. But I'm gonna walk you through the process because it's very simple and I was way over-analyzing it for a long time. You're able to better control the quality, not the quality, well, you control that by the coffee that you buy, but the strength of the coffee, it's just, oh, it's so good. So, French press on Amazon. This is a 1-liter French press. I will link it for you. I also invested in an electric kettle as a way to be able to heat up the water. And this works really well because I've also been on a big tea kick. Y'all know I've been loving my apple cinnamon spice tea. So I use this multiple times throughout the day for coffee, but then also for tea. So I will link the electric kettle on Amazon as well. But I'm just gonna go ahead and heat up my water. I do measure out the coffee grounds, which is probably a little extra, but I think there is a science behind really good coffee. So, for my big cup, again, it's probably closer to like 2 normal sized cups. I do 1 ounce of coffee, so 28 grams. So I'm just gonna measure that out. And I'm using the Costco coffee because it is a Monday, which means we're not treating ourselves quite as much as we do on the weekends with the more expensive stuff. And then I'm gonna grab a spoon, hold on. So once I add in the hot water, I do stir it. I wanna get a longer spoon though, so I can get all the way to the bottom. But I'm gonna let the water finish heating up and then we'll move on with the next step. So once the electric kettle goes off, which I can tell it's about to flip up the little switch because it's almost done, I do wait a few seconds before I add the water because as it heats up, it actually gets to boiling, but you don't want the water to be boiling when you add it in. So I wait a few seconds for it to cool down, and you can literally hear, I mean, I could pop it open and look at it too, but there we go. So I just kind of hold it off, wait a few seconds as I can hear that it is no longer boiling. Okay, that sounds good. And then I'm going to add in the water, which again, I have measured this out, so it's like the exact amount that I need for my 1 cup. And then I'm gonna use my spoon and just kind of very lightly, I don't wanna agitate it too much, but I just do a couple passes back and forth to make sure the grounds are all wet. I'm gonna put the top on, but you don't plunge right away. You're gonna let it steep. Alexa, set a timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, starting now.
And yeah, I like the spoon. I don't mind coffee grounds in my mouth. That's gonna sit for 5 minutes. This is usually when I then start my stretching routine. I had someone comment and ask what my stretching routine looked like. I just stretch random parts of my body that need to be stretched. So I will do like lunges on the floor and the whole like, I'm trying to eventually do the splits. That would be cool. We're not anywhere near that. But for the 5 minutes while that goes, I'm just gonna kind of stretch. I'm gonna not record it because that's highly embarrassing. And then we will plunge and serve. So then after it sits for the 5 minutes, which the timer is about to go off, wait for it. Alexa, stop timer. Then you just plunge, oh, I missed, which I've got to push it down till I get to like the surface, and then you'll feel that tension. So you just kind of push slowly, and that pushes the grinds down to the bottom, okay? And then it's as easy as just pouring it into the cup. So make sure the little arrow is aligned. I'm still doing the protein shake in my coffee. So I have half of that in here to act as my creamer. And I'm gonna add the coffee. It's so simple. I don't know why I thought it was more difficult than it was, but I'm not kidding. The taste of the coffee is just significantly better. And because I have only my 1 cup each day, I really want it to be a good cup and cannot recommend enough. It doesn't take any extra time. I have timed it compared to using like the single brewer on the Ninja. It literally is the same amount of time. So all of that will be linked if you are interested. Okay, now let's chat about getting certified to teach in Texas. If you saw my last Get Ready for the Month With Me vlog, each month this year I am setting a goal for myself. And my goal for the month of March was to get certified to teach in Texas. Now, originally, the video you're watching right now was supposed to be a behind the scenes vlog of that process, but I've had to push it back to next week. So that vlog is still coming because I'm kind of at a standstill with the process. Sorry, Ember is scratching herself if you can hear that. Essentially, I should have started the process earlier in the month. I just got busy. So I didn't start until like March 19th. I submitted all the paperwork and stuff on my end, but I'm in a holding pattern because I'm waiting on my old district to fill out a form in order for me to not have to take some of the certification exams here in Texas. But I apparently sent it to the wrong email, so I never got a response. When I followed up and sent to a new email, I got an automatic reply that they are on spring break. So as a result, I'm just kind of waiting, and I didn't want to end the vlog like prematurely. I wanted to give it some more time, which I still probably will not have the certification by the time that vlog goes up because I think it will be a longer process, but we're making progress, so that's good. Right now, I am going to continue my normal morning routine. After I make coffee, I come upstairs. While I enjoy it, I do my Rosetta Stone. So one of my overarching goals it's one of my 40 before 40 list items, is to learn a new language. So I purchased Rosetta Stone, and I do just the 30-ish minute daily lessons. It's 5 times a week. I'm currently, I think on week 9 is what I'm starting, and it's going well. I mean, I'm not confident enough to speak to you right now in Spanish.
La telefona.
But my level of understanding is definitely improving, and it works really well in my routine. I do it first thing while I enjoy my coffee, and then I try to read. So we're gonna start our next book for the month, and then we're gonna chat about books because I've got some updates, and we're gonna go shopping for some new books, which I'm excited about. Okay, let's chat about books. In case you didn't know, I am on a journey in 2024 to read 52 books in a year, which comes out to about a book a week, but it doesn't have to be exactly one book every week. Some weeks I might read 2, some weeks I might read none. And my goal for the month of March was to read 5 more books, which in hindsight was a little ambitious considering everything I had going on. I am technically recording this on March 25th, so I still have a little bit less than a week left of the month. I have read 4 out of the 5 books, and I do plan on finishing that 5th book. So I will stay on track with my goals. I mentioned this in the last vlog that I did, but I've been using the app called TBR or To Be Read in order to track my books. So that is what my current bookshelf looks like. The first book I read in the month of March was called The Miracle Morning. And overall, it was good, not great. It was a quick read, but I didn't get a whole lot out of it. I mean, it's essentially about here's things you should do every single morning to transform your life. You know, if I had maybe taken action on it, I would feel differently, but I kind of read it and I was like, okay, maybe I'll come back to this at some point, but it was all right. The next one that I read was called Learning Transported, and this was all about using AR and VR and MR. So VR is virtual reality, AR is augmented reality, and MR is mixed or merged reality. I read this in preparation for one of the sessions that I delivered at McCall. It's a really good book. If you are brand new to using AR or VR in the classroom, this is a fantastic resource to start with. So recommend that one if it's something that interests you. And then I have a new favorite book, and I can't believe I am admitting this. Y'all know I've been a loyal Atomic Habits lover ever since I first read it. And I have been convinced that it is my all-time favorite book, especially within the realm of habits, but probably even overall. I think it's been replaced by Tiny Habits. And I went into this book not wanting to love it as much as Atomic Habits. And maybe it's a little bit of recency bias because I just read this one, whereas I haven't read Atomic Habits in a few years, but I loved it, loved the way it was written. To me, this is something that you can read and immediately start applying to your life. I loved Atomic Habits, but I almost wish there was more application-based information in it. And this book had just everything that I wanted. It was so good. So if you do not read any other books in 2024, get yourself a copy of Tiny Habits and just read this book because it is so, so good. Cannot rave about it enough. This is one I will come back to again and again and again. It made me so happy. And then the last one that I just finished yesterday actually was Productive Math Struggle. And this one was really good, but I didn't get a lot out of it, mostly because this is the way that I taught math in my last district. So I just didn't learn a whole lot new, although it was good reassurance that I was doing the right things, you know what I mean? But if you are new to utilizing Productive Struggle in math, I do think this is a great resource. And there are some good examples and lists of questions and things that you can come back to. So I think it's a great resource for all math teachers to have. But if you already teach with kind of a Productive Struggle methodology within your math instruction, it's not gonna be revolutionary. And then the book that I just started this morning that I plan to finish this week is Behind Closed Doors, and this is my fiction book for the month. Now, all of these are on 2 different Amazon, I almost said playlists, just lists within my Amazon storefront. So I have one list for personal books and then one list for teaching books. Those will both be linked down below if you want to grab copies of any of them. And since it is almost April, I need to pick out the books I'm gonna read for April. My goal is to read 4 books, but I've started to realize that buying books is pretty expensive. And yes, I know I can go to a library. My issue is I'm a highlighter, okay? When I read a book, especially nonfiction, like I highlight all of the things. So I do want physical copies of the books that are mine to keep. Also, you can't see it, but I have a little stash of all the books that I've read stacked up back here in the corner, and it's just a nice visual representation of everything I've read. So here's my thought. We're gonna go to Goodwill and pick up some books. That way it's cheap, and I can just kind of browse and see what piques my interest, and hopefully I can get something decent. You never know. I feel like thrift stores can be very hit or miss. Okay, the first Goodwill I visited was a bust, but the second one was a big success. I got 7 books, 5 of them paperback, 2 hardcover, for essentially what one book would have cost. The total was $17.25. I did the roundup, so $18. The paperback books were $1.99 each, and the 2 hardback books were $2.99 each. Now, we're gonna do a little book haul. These first 2 were just kind of throw-ins, but I came across them and I said, we'll give it a try. The first one is Emotional Intelligence Happiness. It says Harvard Business Review Press. I don't know, it looks interesting. Also, it's short, and I feel like I kind of need some short books in my rotation just to give me some motivation, because I'm starting to get to that point where it's becoming more difficult to sustain my reading habit. But the second one is called Make Virtual Meetings Matter: How to Turn Virtual Meetings from Status Updates to Remarkable Conversations. It looked interesting. We'll see. Again, pretty short, pretty basic. These other books were all ones I had on my list, so I was very excited to find them. I mentioned that in the month of March, I read The Miracle Morning. Well, this is The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. So I'm gonna give it a try. I'll see if it's more applicable to me as an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur, right? Teacherpreneur, same diff. Smarter, Faster, Better: The Transformative Power of Real Productivity. This is the same author as The Power of Habit, which is one of the first books I read this year. I didn't love, let me rephrase that. I love the information in the book. It just wasn't my favorite read because it's very sciencey, but I think there's a time and a place for that. And I was happy to score that for pretty cheap. Eat That Frog: 21 Great Ways to Stop Procrastinating and Get More Done in Less Time by Brian Tracy. I was really excited when I saw this one because it's been on my list for a while and it should be a pretty quick, easy read. Also on my list for a while, The 10 Times Rule. And this is all about like the difference between success and failure. So I'm excited to dive into that, and it's hardcover. And then the final book is technically like a young adult book, but it's Out of My Heart by Sharon Draper, which I'm so excited about because Sharon Draper is also the author of Out of My Mind, which I loved. I read it with some of my 4th graders, but I actually read it first when I was back in college because Sharon Draper came and spoke at my college, and she was phenomenal. So very excited about all of those finds, but I will say I was in there like a good hour looking through all the books, so it was not a time-saving measure, but I did save money, and I mean, that's a good thing, right? Since April will start a new quarter of the year, let's go ahead and chat about my next 3 months of goals. I chose my goals for January, February, and March at the beginning of the year, and I've started brainstorming what I think my goals will be for the next 3 months, but again, I reserve the right to change them as we go. My thought for April is to have it be relationship focused because I would really like to focus on growing in different areas of my life with each month's goal. And so every month, Billy and I do something we call State of the Union. We go to a little coffee shop or we grab brunch, and it's just a chance for him and I to reflect on our relationship and think about things that we want to improve, and also pat ourselves on the back for the things that have gone really well. And we always end by saying what we want more of and what we want less of. It's a really simple way to kind of structure the month ahead. And one of the last ones that I came up with was more love deposits and less love withdrawals. This sounds cheesy, but if you think of your relationship as a bank account, you want to make sure you're always making more deposits than you are withdrawals. And deposits can be simple things that make the other person feel loved and special and show that you value your relationship, whereas withdrawals can be arguments, but also I think about it as when you've really been asking a lot out of the other person. And so for example, as I've been preparing for conferences and speaking engagements, Billy has had to be very flexible and understanding and help me out in a lot of ways. So I think for the month of April, I would like to make sure I am making a love deposit between Billy and I every single day. And it can be small things like leaving him sticky notes or sending him a text message, surprising him at work with maybe like lunch or something like that. For the month of May, I'm strategically choosing a goal that I think can be accomplished quickly because I'm gonna be traveling and my time will be limited. So my thought is for the month of May, I can check off a 40 before 40 list item, which is to learn how to drive a stick shift. I've just never really had access to a manual car. I've only ever drove automatic cars. So my thought is I can rent a stick shift and then have my parents teach me. So I've got to coordinate with them. For the month of June, I think I want to do a no spend month, which this can be done a lot of different ways. For me, I think that will mean only doing necessary purchases, so bills and obviously groceries, and even putting a cap on grocery purchases, but not doing any frivolous spending or unnecessary spending, because I stopped at TJ Maxx on the way home from Goodwill, which I had not been to TJ Maxx in a long time. I can't go back there. It was not good for my bank account. But that being said, I always like to end these little get ready for the month with me videos with some digital planning. So we're gonna go over my March reflection page as well as my April planning page. And again, for the digital planner, it is the digital personal planner that Bridget and I have available on Teaching on the Double. I will link that for you. I do my digital planning on an old iPad. I think it's a 2018 iPad. I use an Apple Pencil, and I use the app GoodNotes to do the annotation, which is like the writing on top of the PDF. But I'm just gonna scooch to the side and pop up a picture of the pages already completed. So for March, for kind of my summary, obviously a lot of this has to do with traveling to Michigan. We had Ember's second gotcha day. That was about a week ago. And she was not very cooperative. I'll insert in a picture. It was the best that we could do. It had been a long day. It's fine. Tried some new recipes. I think my favorite was that creamy Cajun chicken skillet. So good. That was a recipe from, I believe, Lily Eats and Tells. I had authentic Venezuelan food for the first time, got some arepas. I am probably butchering that pronunciation, but they were delicious. My highlights were presenting at the conference, venturing into the world of French press, trying new cuisines and recipes. I've been grateful for Billy's flexibility with my schedule, the opportunity to impact others, especially getting to meet people at McCall who have been following me for a while, and hearing their stories is just so rejuvenating and necessary, and it feels good. And then the ability to afford unnecessary pleasures. I was thinking about splurging at TJ Maxx or buying coffee, things like that, where I know not everyone has the availability to do that. So my best memory was actually meeting an employee at the gym that I worked out at while I was in Michigan for McCall, because I was squatting and she sparked up a conversation with me. She's like, I don't see girls in here lifting very often. Like, are you a new gym member? It was just a very nice, wholesome conversation, and I actually caught it accidentally on camera because I was trying to record my lift when she started the conversation, and it was very wholesome, and I loved it. Challenges, I've been dealing with some fatigue, physical and mental, but I'm also in the later ends of my powerlifting prep, so that's very normal. Procrastinating big projects, I've talked about that. I just need to be better about being proactive and then maintaining balance during those busy times. And I would like to improve showing appreciation to others, focusing. For extended durations, I found myself seeking distractions a lot more, and I need to be better on that. And then working proactively on projects. I've got some ongoing projects, some unfinished to-dos, and then under start doing, I mentioned those daily love deposits, starting to build some of those tiny habits after reading the book, embracing change and identity. So trying not to say, oh, I'm not the kind of person that does that, and instead look at, well, let me try it. You know, as people, we grow and develop over time, and things that maybe didn't interest us before or didn't fit our personality, we can always grow into. I'm gonna go ahead over to the April planning page. So priorities, Billy and I's relationship, not that anything is like wrong with it, it's more so I just wanna make sure that I am prioritizing it. I think that's important every now and then. Training and recovery, specifically taking time to relax, especially as I gear up for my next powerlifting meet, working proactively on projects. Under reminders, this is more specific to training and powerlifting, but it's this analogy of some days you get a shovel and some days you get a spoon, but you gotta move the dirt anyway and just do the best with what you got. Not too many like super important days. Billy's off when the solar eclipse happens on April 8th, and that solar eclipse is kind of coming right through our area, so that'll be cool to do that together. And then under my to-dos, I've got some unfinished to-dos from March, it's fine. I went ahead and put in those books that I plan to read, creating the digital escape room, digital mystery puzzles, outlining videos, podcasts. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what April brings us, but that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. It seems like y'all enjoy these videos, and as long as you do, I will continue to make them. I kind of enjoy the process each month, getting to reflect and really be strategic and intentional for the month ahead. But let me know by giving the video a thumbs up if you also enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell. As always, thank you for watching. I love you so much. Don't forget to put your positive pants on, and I will catch you in the next one.